Hello, sixth graders. I wanted to take just a few moments on this Monday morning to talk with you a little bit about your new lesson, Time Around the Earth. Now, I have a really good friend from college, and she lives in California. And she and I went to Pensacola together, and I actually introduced her to her husband. And so occasionally we like to talk, but I always have to be mindful about what time it is in California, because it might be 12 o'clock noon here in North Carolina, but it would be earlier, 3 hours earlier in California, so that might not be a good time to call. So sometimes that actually can, be a bit of a hindrance, but we work through it. Time zones were incorporated in the late 1800s as travel became more accessible, and the railroad was invented, and so therefore people were traveling more and they needed to have a standard time. So time zones were invented. There are 24 time zones across the world. Now, as you know, our Earth rotates on its axis, and it also revolves around the sun. The sun is stationary and the planets revolve around the sun. The Earth rotates about 4 degrees, it rotates 1 degree every 4 minutes. Now, the lines of longitude, we've discussed that a little bit in geography with history, lines of longitude and latitude. They run from the North Pole to the South Pole, and these are imaginary lines that geologists and geographers have come up with to help to divide the Earth. And so the line of longitude, known as the prime meridian, runs through Greenwich, England. And on the opposite side of that is the IDL, or the International Dateline. And I know that some of your parents travel occasionally, and they probably have to deal with time changes and maybe even date changes. And it can cause maybe some fatigue and things of that nature when you're traveling. Now, here for the United States, we have 6 time zones, and you'll see them written on the board. We live in the Eastern time zone. Central comes next, Mountain time zone. Pacific, that would be over on the West Coast, where my friend lives in California. The Alaskan time zone and the Hawaii Aleutian time zone, or the Hawaii time zone. And you simply just really need to remember, there's a couple of things. Now, first in your book, I will say this. On the class practice, it says, find the time required for the Earth to rotate these degrees longitude. If necessary, simplify the answer. So if the Earth is rotating 2 degrees, remember what I said at the beginning, in 4 minutes it rotates 1 degree. So you would simply say 4 times 2 to get 8 minutes. So for letter A, it would be an 8-minute answer. For letter B, if it's rotating 10 degrees, it rotates, remember, 1 degree every 4 minutes. So 10 times 4 would be 40 minutes. Now, letter C is what it's talking about with its simplification, because if you take 24 and multiply it by 4, you're going to get 96 minutes, and they want you to take that and convert it into hours and minutes. So you think, okay, there's 60 minutes in an hour, divide 60 into 96, that gives you 1 hour, and then left over you would have 36 minutes. Now, on the back page, and be sure that you do read the information, please, in the brown box. That's just something you have to do on your honor. I can't really check that, but it is important. This is some new things that you're learning today. Now, on the back page, complete the chart of the United States. It shows you that in Hawaii, the time is 3 o'clock a.m. And you'll notice the further you go to the east, then the later the time is. So it's 3 o'clock a.m. and then 4 o'clock a.m., 5 o'clock in the Pacific time, 6 a.m., and all the way over where we live at, it would be 8 o'clock a.m. Now for letter B, notice that the time Pacific would be 4:30 a.m. And of course, we know that a.m. deals with those morning hours. And so as you go toward the east, it's going to get a little later. So it's 5:30 a.m., 6:30 Central Time, and Eastern Time, it would be 7:30. Now it's going to be earlier this direction toward the west. So this would be 3:30 a.m. and this would be 2:30 a.m. So you see the difference there. It's going to be later on the eastern side. That's why sometimes if you're watching a program on television, especially if it's something maybe like a competition where they're going to be announcing a winner, they might say, this will be 5 o'clock Pacific time, or this is going to be such and such time Eastern time. And so that's important to know. I remember when I lived in Pensacola, that actually is in the central time zone, not all of Florida, but the Pensacola Panhandle is. And so we were going to celebrate New Year's Eve, my friends and I, and we actually missed the entire ball dropping in New York City because we forgot about the time change. And so it had happened in New York, midnight, and then we were still playing a board game or something, and then we realized, oh, well, we missed the whole New Year's. It wasn't a big deal, but we did kind of feel a little silly about that. So, but this is what this lesson is about, time around the earth. So you just want to make sure that you know the zones in order: Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific, Alaskan, Hawaii. And if you kind of think about the states, and as you come to them, that might help you as well. On the eastern side, of course, you know that you have North South Carolina. Central, when you get to the mountains, you think about North and South Dakota. And then over in the Pacific realm, and when they originally divided the time zones up, they tried as much as possible to keep it along the state lines, and it doesn't always have that capability. That's why, like for example, Florida has 2 time zones. But a lot of the states would be in the same time zone. And so we'll be talking about this a little today, and then tomorrow we dive into it a bit more in detail. So I just wanted to give you an introduction for this new lesson and hopefully help you some with today's front and back page. If you've got any questions, I'm always available and willing to help. Have a great Monday.